Inside the Birds is back. What's up, everybody? It's Geoff, Mosher, and Adam Caplan. Well, there's no game preview for this Inside the Birds as the Eagles are on the bye week, but there is lots to discuss. And of course, Inside the Birds is presented by our friends at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. It's the exclusive Jersey Shore resort of Inside the Birds. This is going to be a self-scouting episode. Well, we're not really scouting Inside the Birds, although we could do that in the offseason sometime, Adam. We're going to be self-scouting the Philadelphia Eagles, going through some of the things that they've done well, some of the things that they can improve on as they come out of the bye week next week and get prepared for a huge game. And this is really the meat of the schedule now, right? I mean, it started already with Dallas, but Kansas City, Buffalo, San Francisco, Dallas, Seattle, they're all in there. It is truly the meat and potatoes of their schedule.
I've never heard of a schedule like this before. I get it. They were the Super Bowl. This is insane. This is, now I say that Buffalo has regressed. The Niners have regressed. The Eagles just handled Dallas. Well, I should say handled. They just got by Dallas. But hey, Dallas has got some crazy warts. The Eagles discovered Seattle could score, and that's how it's in Seattle. Then the Eagles get a break if they survive, and a miracle that they win all those games. Then they face two bad teams, the Giants, Cardinals, and the Giants. So it's going to be fun, though. It's going to be interesting.
Listen, man, that Giants, we knew the Cardinals weren't going to be good. The Giants, I think we thought were going to be obviously a little better than they are going into this year. But the Giants, that's 3 games right there where you think if the Eagles can win, say, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say they go, I don't know, 3-2. Give them 4-1 over that stretch. That would be amazing, right? I mean, they'd be 12-2 with a chance to win like 15 games with those 3 at the end of the year. That would be,
just, incredible. What were they in the Super Bowl this 17 year? Were they 14-3, 13?
They were 14-3 because they lost that last game against Dallas.
13-3. They were
13. Yeah, 16 games. Yeah. Who'd they lose to? They lost to Seattle. They lost to
Dallas. You're right. The last game that was awful, and then the Kansas City game.
Kansas City, right? Week 2.
You're throwing too much. Stop throwing. And then the players were upset. That was funny, man. And the next game they ran it against the Giants. Was that the Elliott field goal game? Week 3?
They beat the field goal. They beat the Giants, right? Week 3 on the 61 yarder.
61 yarder. Yep, that was.
Yep. And then the Chargers game where LeGarrette Blount just ran for almost like, I don't know, it might have been more than 200 yards. And
the quake.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when the stadium shook at the soccer stadium because the Eagle fans took it over.
Yeah, and then shortly after they had a Thursday night game against the Panthers, who were pretty good that year, and they went down there on a short rest Thursday night and won a big game. And then that's when you really started to say, hey, this Eagles team is looking pretty good. But now it's the norm. Now they're 8-1, and they were 8-1 last year at this point too, and that's pretty incredible. This Eagles team is just winning at a historic clip. So we say self-scout, right? Like as if there's things that they can do better. Of course there's things they can do better. We'll go through it, but right now they are in such a good place, even with some injuries, that it's good to be them right now.
It's very similar to the 2017 team. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So the Eagles were obviously a great road and home team under Doug Peterson that year. Well, Sirianni's got the best road record going back to the 21 season. That's incredible that he's been able to do this. They have the same bye week, the Eagles, to week 10 as they did in 2017, and the same record, 8-1. I mean, I'm just saying the coincidence is interesting.
Yeah, they were also 8-1 last year. So I mean, this is
right. Yeah. Crazy, man.
Right.
Go ahead.
So we got a lot of great stuff this week, even on the bye week. Q&A did a bang up job, and Jason, no doubt, was very boastful, as he should be, about his pregame show discussion about the art of cowboying, which is the Cowboys always figuring out a way to blow it at the end. And lo and behold, they did. So they had a really fun time with that one on Q&A. They actually also had some really good breakdown of the defense and some Jalen Hurts throws too. So that was great. Greg Cosell and Clay Harbor had their show come out Thursday. This is the most all 22 that they've actually examined and showed to the audience. So I would check it out if I were you. It was really good all 22 breakdown on both the offensive side and the defensive side of both things Eagles did well, could do better, and some things Dallas did well too. It was very comprehensive. So definitely check that out. And on a more serious note, we just want to take a second to say a member of the Inside the Birds family could really use everybody's well wishes and thoughts, and also some other forms of help as well. Derek Gunn, who has brought his Gun on One show to our platform this year, and it's been an exciting venture for him and for us to have him. His wife, Trish, recently had a stroke. She is doing better. She is in recovery. Obviously, anybody who's ever had a family member who had a stroke or a friend or themselves know that when you have a stroke, you usually, a lot of times, a side of your body, you lose feeling on paralysis. And, Trish, his wife, Trish, had that, and she's getting better and should be in a rehab facility soon. So it's just a tough situation for Gunner and the family, but they're pulling through and they're very optimistic and they're happy to see her doing better. There is a GoFundMe page for them because, as anyone who's been through a stroke or knows someone knows, it's a long recovery process. It's a lot of medical aid and attention and rehab. So it's quite a process. So there's a GoFundMe page that is on. The link to it is on Inside the Birds Twitter account. We tweeted it out on Thursday, so you can find it there at Inside Birds. You can find a link to it in the description box of this video on YouTube or this podcast if you're listening to it on Apple or other podcast platforms. You could also go to Derek Gunn's own Facebook page where someone, either a close friend or a family member, posted a little paragraph about what his wife went through, and also the link to the GoFundMe page. And Adam, I don't know if a lot of people know this about Gunner, so I think it's important to say he and his wife do a ton, and they don't publicize it, but they do a ton of community service. They do camps in the summer for underprivileged kids, I believe. His wife is a pastor. They do a lot of faith-based community service. They are always giving, and they don't talk about it. I just know because we know Gunner pretty well.
Yeah.
And this is a time where somebody in their family or their real close circle said, listen, you guys give all of your time, your energy, your effort to others, to help others. You need to accept help, because I don't think Gunn really liked the idea of a GoFundMe page and everything like that when I spoke to him. But now he realizes that yes, you can. It's okay to accept help when you need it. So that's why I think, and I've seen already that there are a lot of people who have already donated to the GoFundMe page. Inside the Birds has donated to their GoFundMe page. So I really, I would really hope that people listening to this podcast can go and spare whatever it is that they can to help out Gunner's family.
Yeah, it's when we were made known of this, it was just a stunner. Yeah, it's anyone who's had issues with strokes, it's a long road ahead. I have two friends who've had it. It's a tough deal, man. It's a tough deal, but it's just, you go through the rehab and it's a long process, and Derek and his family could certainly use our support and everyone's support. So GoFundMe is a good way to go about it.
Yeah, definitely. And, I did speak to Gunner, and he is going to still do, once things settle down a little bit, Gun on One will be back on the Inside the Birds platform, perhaps as early as next week. But right now he's just getting his family situation settled, and we wish him the best. And I hope everybody, all of our listeners and viewers, keep Derek Gunn in their thoughts, prayers, and are able to do something on GoFundMe. We also had a really good chat, by the way, with John DiFilippo. We always do every week. I think our Patreon members are the feedback we get is that they're so excited about this weekly segment that we do. And we got John early this week because he wanted to get his observations from Eagles Cowboys on the record for our Patreon family really quickly. And not only did he have great breakdown, but really good stuff about bye week things and from his vantage point as a coach, how coaches treat the bye week compared to how players treat the bye week. And he really gave us a really good walk through what it's like to be an NFL coach on a bye week and what goes on.
Yeah, he did a self-scout, and this is our longest one. This is about a 45-minute discussion. He was wearing an Eagles hat, which is funny.
You love his hats.
I know, he gets mad at me because I always make fun of him wearing these hats. He's a big hat guy.
Yeah.
But it was an education. This is incredible. Now, next, and by the way, we will take your coaches for John, as we always do, and we're going to do it next week. Next week's show, we're going to go forward with past week 10. Obviously, we're going to talk about some of the Eagles' opponents coming up, but we're also going to talk about the 2017 team as it compared 6 years later. Yes, it's been 6 years later. What was it like to go through that year? When did you know it was going to be great? Then obviously the Wentz injury. How did he handle it? How do you get a quarterback going? And I want John also to talk about his interview with Jalen Hurts when he was with the Bears. He had 15 minutes with him. I want to see if he's willing to talk about it and all that and more. We also want to welcome new Patreon members, Tony, Stephen, Kirk. And also we should have our one of our bi-weekly live streams. It should be next week sometime.
Yes.
And we hope to see everybody there.
Absolutely. And again, that's patreon.com/inside-the-birds to get in. You mentioned our new members, Tony, Stephen, Kirk. Really appreciate them hopping aboard, and a lot of people have lately. So it's great to see. All right. Inside the Birds is brought to you, as we mentioned, by our friends at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. It's the exclusive Jersey Shore resort of Inside the Birds. Let's pause real quick to hear a word from our great friends at Ocean Casino Resort.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Okay. Injury news. We talked about it in the last podcast. We have more. It's not great. Obviously, we know that Dallas Goedert is out with the fractured forearm. We talked about that. But since our last podcast, it has become known on Nakobe Dean that he's out with another foot sprain. You know, remember the first one? Yeah, the first one, the team felt relieved because they thought it was going to be a really bad Liz Frank injury that required a lot of surgery or maybe be season ending.
Well, they were concerned, right? But they were concerned it was not a normal sprain.
Correct.
So what happened was they got the testing back, and we were told very strongly it was not Liz Frank.
Right.
It was a sprained right foot, and that was it.
Right.
And did he? I can't. They've had so many injuries. I can't keep up with who was he on IR?
He did. He went on IR, and it was he missed basically weeks 2, 3, 4, and 5 because it happened in the season.
Right. So and then this is crazy. So now the new injury is it's a midfoot sprain. Okay, midfoot. It's sort of like an unnatural sprain. It's in the Liz Frank area. This is the one Deuce Staley had, by the way. If you might, old-timer Eagle fans, Eric Redd had it. Eric Redd's career, the former running back. I'm not saying this is going to happen with Nakobe, but I'm just giving you how serious this is, potentially. We don't know if it's the full-blown rupture. I talked to Calvin Austin, the Steelers receiver at training camp. He had the full surgery, the full rupture. Now, he said he was told 6 to 9 months. He came back just over 4 months. And the medical staff was very surprised that he came back that early. So that's the worst case scenario. That's the full-blown Liz Frank injury. But look, the crazy thing is, man, it's both feet.
I know.
You can't make it up.
I know. And unfortunately for him, it's both feet. In the training camp, he missed time with an ankle. And unfortunately, it's become sort of illustrative of what we were told by personnel people coming out of the draft when everybody was like, oh man, it's like we got a first round pick in the 3rd round. And you and I were like, well, he's a talented kid, but there are some concerns about the wear and tear on his body, his size. He's not the biggest guy in the world. So that's why we talked about how important it is to keep him clean. And for the most part, I think the Eagles defensive line has done a really good job of holding up blocks and keeping him clean, or else it could even be worse. But these are already 3 foot injury or lower leg injuries this year alone, in the year that he was supposed to be a first full year of starter. And, it's unfortunate, but it does go back to those questions that people had about his overall size and durability at the NFL level. Not to mention the fact that, was he great this year? No, he was playing okay. There were times he would struggle, and as we documented in coverage, he was doing well against the run. They were using him as a blitzer for the first time, really, this past game, ironically, against the Cowboys. Blitzed about 3 or 4 times before he got hurt. But as someone put it to me, it's not great to lose him, but it doesn't. The caliber of play with Nick Morrow in there, who's going to fill his role alongside Zach Cunningham, it doesn't drop off. It doesn't raise, it doesn't drop off. And Nick Morrow is going to go in and he's played just as well, if not better, than Nakobe Dean this year.
Yeah, he's Morrow's been an amazing story. Remember, this is a guy that they cut to start the season.
Right.
And he got brought back. He was on the practice squad, brought up to the 53, and been a nice story for them. And Dean, the note that what our reporting on Dean's situation before the draft was, clubs were worried about his upper body because he's a smaller linebacker. I understand that.
True.
Today's linebacker, 225, 227, and sometimes 230, 232. They were worried about his frame. The inside linebacker position at 34 front or odd man front, just from the analytical data that we got years ago, would show you that these players get hurt a lot. They get a lot of traffic. You made a great point because he's been kept clean. A lot of shoulder, pectoral, chest injuries. You're worried about that. He hasn't had that. He's had foot injuries. How do you predict?
I know. Ironically, though, it was a pec injury that he was nursing in the pre-draft process, right? And then he didn't run the 40, so there were some questions about his overall his pure athleticism. I just hope that he gets better, Adam, and he really needs sort of like TJ Edwards, right? You need that year. You need to develop. And unfortunately, when you're missing, you saw how the development really helped TJ Edwards, right? And I think Sean Desai is doing a good job in general. And it's hard to see what the linebackers coach is doing, although the linebackers have played well this year, well enough. So he just needs that time and development. And hopefully this won't be too long of an injury. We'll try to find out more as we go on. But the one area where you can say it really hurt, it may not hurt right now as far as level of play, but depth is killer here. Ooh. Because the next guy up is Christian Ellis, who's barely played it all this year. And then after Christian Ellis, we're talking, I would imagine that the Eagles will make a move because last time Nakobe Dean got hurt, they signed Rashaan Evans, right? And then he asked for his release. He wanted to, I think he's with Dallas now.
He is. And in fact, he it's funny you mentioned him because he was called up from the practice squad on Saturday.
Huh.
I'm thinking, he asked out of the contract to have a better role. Really? Well, here he could. I mean, first of all, you have a better chance to win a Super Bowl here. Let's call it like it is. And you got, Zach Cunningham's been a great story. He's actually played pretty well. And Morrow's been a nice story.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, he'd be definitely over Ellis. And as you said, he's one play away from playing. Okay, well, Rashaan Evans, good luck to you. But Christian Ellis is a bigger guy. He's got good length. He's pretty athletic. He's one of the better special teams players, but he's kind of limited in certain areas of his game, and that's why he's been a backup. And in fact, on your point, the only two inside linebackers left, if the guys on the 53rd, you mentioned Ben Van Sumeren, who reverted back to the practice squad on Monday. He's only a special teams player. And your guy from Penn State, Brandon Smith, was severely overdrafted by the Panthers.
Did he's back? I thought the Panthers. Oh, okay. I
week.
forgot that he was back. Yeah.
Yeah, he's back. Yeah, and that's
Listen,
it.
I think you need a veteran. Even if it's who's the guy who signed with the Giants last year? Jared Davis, was it?
Yeah, he's on IR, unfortunately. Yeah.
Oh, is he? I thought he was unemployed actually.
No, he's on IR. Yeah.
All right. Well, they need a veteran. They need to go out there and find somebody who can play
now
for the practice.
On that, yes, for the practice squad. They did not work anyone out this week, but again, they're off. Monday and Tuesday next week are the big workout days, particularly Tuesday. I'd be stunned if they don't work out an ILB or a slot corner. I'd say slot because Roby, who's also a follower on X, Twitter, that he'll be, he's going to be back for this week coming up, but he's 31 years old. He just came back from an injury.
Right.
You can't be safe enough when you're trying to make a Super Bowl run. Why not get someone in the pipeline? Bryce Callahan, I know people have asked us about him. He's not. I get the workout list. He hasn't been on a workout list in weeks.
Don't they have Kindle Vildor as sort of their version of a Bryce Callahan? You're talking about a guy who's got some experience in the slot corner.
Yep. We're going to talk to Chuck Pagano, the former Bears defense coordinator, who Chuck coached Vildor when Chuck was the defense coordinator. We're going to ask Chuck about him today on Patreon. I'm very curious to what he says. Yep, you're right. Vildor is only 25. He was their slot corner for 2 years, and then they changed schemes and it didn't work. So that's a good one. But again, you want someone with experience.
Yeah.
someone brought up in our Patreon chat on Wednesday about Logan Ryan. Logan Ryan was one of the better nickel defenders for years. Then transitioned from corner to safety with the Bucks. He's out there. He was interviewed recently and still wants to play.
It would make sense to me. I think anybody with experience. I mean, I know people are going to say, these guys, they're washed up. They're over. They can't play anymore. Well, that's why we're talking about street free agents here. You're not going to find a Pro Bowl player just sitting on a couch.
Exactly. I was going to say beggars can't be choosers. It's my favorite saying that, old school saying.
Right.
But anyway, that's where they're out here. So they're out with all this stuff. Look, it's been a tough injury year. Not many have been lost for the season, but the nickel corner position, it's been almost historic what they've had to go through. I mean, my count is either 8 or 9, depending on. We need to find out if Mekhi Gardner. I know he played safety, but did he actually play nickel? If he did, he'd be the 9th guy. What nickel?
Well, let me ask you this. Against Dallas, there were times where the Eagles were in a man defense and a cover one look, and Byard, the safety, would come in and defend the slot receiver just because they're playing man, and Dallas came out with four wide. So even though he's a safety, he had to come down. Does that count as playing the nickel, or is that just a safety coming down to guard an interior receiver?
That's the problem with this, because you have to distinguish from. This is a great point you made. Is the guy really playing nickel, or do you just come in because, like Sidney Brown, was he really a nickel? Were they playing big nickel? But he would follow whoever was covering inside. Like, see, that's the problem.
At the end of the day, the responsibility is the same. You're covering a slot target, whether it's a tight end or a receiver. So I think you should count it as nickel. You're covering on the slot.
Okay, so now we're okay. See, now you got me thinking.
You throw Gardner in there, man.
That's it. I was going to go there because I want him to be the 9th guy. That's got to set an NFL record.
I would think so.
Ridiculous.
It is pretty crazy.
Anyway.
All right, let's go to that. That leads us perfectly into the next segment of sort of self-scouting the Eagles during the bye week. We'll get to that in a second. First, we were reminding you about our friends at HelloFresh, and they are so valuable to us in the fall. We're busy, we're scrambling, we're working crazy late hours. Who has time to stay at home and cook a meal? That's why we love HelloFresh. They deliver farm fresh food with pre-proportioned ingredients and seasonal recipes right to our doorstep. There's no more wasting time at the grocery store, because America's #1 meal kit helps make home cooking easy, efficient, and affordable. We don't have to waste time researching recipes. We don't have to plan meals. With HelloFresh, the shopping is already done. The perfect amount of ingredients arrive with step-by-step recipe cards. You can't get more efficient than that. Plus, HelloFresh saves you time and money. HelloFresh is 25% less expensive than takeout, so you get a home-cooked meal without digging deep into your wallet. And don't forget about taste and selection. That's very important with food, all right? HelloFresh makes food for meat lovers, seafood lovers, vegetarians, and anyone who loves a mix of all of it. You can get whatever you want, and that's why it's so efficient and easy. So go to HelloFresh.com/50Eagles and use the promo code 50Eagles, 50 Eagles, one word, for 50% off. Folks, my math tells me that it is half off. All right, that's a lot. 50% off and free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/50Eagles, and use the promo code 50Eagles, 50 Eagles for 50% off plus free shipping. Act now for America's #1 meal kit.
By the way, I got
yes, sir.
The hummus was so good. Their hummus that they sent me, and they gave me really good bread. I was like, wow, this is really good. I love hummus, so
nice.
I love bread.
I actually had a similar meal. I didn't ask for it, but I got it. So it was a chickpea and rice bowl with the hummus like that you make as a side, and it was a great blend. And
wasn't it good? Yeah.
Me, who's usually like, give me meat, give me chicken, like I was like, oh, this is actually like pretty good. I can eat this, even though it was chickpeas and onions and stuff and rice. The rice was really good, basmati rice. So again, it's not like you're not getting delivered fast food product. You're getting really good fresh food. I would definitely encourage everybody to jump on that 50% discount. Let's talk about the Eagles offense, Adam, first. Jalen Hurts, I think, has played pretty well the last few weeks, with the knee injury. And I think he's done a really good job of something that he's probably improved upon from the first week or two or three. And that's kind of getting the ball out quickly, finding the underneath guys, the tight end, throwing to the running back when necessary, and seeing it when it's open. I think the last 2 or 3 games, more so than even maybe the first few weeks, when the offense looked a little bit dysfunctional and the red zone offense wasn't going well. I think Jalen's doing a better job of that. He's playing really well.
He is. The only negative is what DeFilippo found. John told us on Patreon was that he does move occasionally when he doesn't need to move.
Yeah.
And what happens is that because the pass target's open, when you move, your time is going to be off. But other than that, no, he's. I mean, when you consider how bad that knee is, because he loves to not talk about this stuff. When he corrected the reporter, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, and said, "How about you ask me what it's like to play with a banged up knee?" I was like, "Whoa, okay." Look, it's tough, man. And this is on before we move to running back and other offensive positions. I think it's really good to get him off his feet here. You know, that's the big thing. And as you know, they send all the players away, as you do. Get him off his feet. No contact on that knee. Get that knee right the best that you can. And remember, their full practice week won't start till next Thursday, for the Monday night game. So this is good. A little bit extra time here, and hopefully that's swelling, because when you have a bone bruise, man, I think it's swell up. You know, you got to get the bruising out of there and get the blood out of there. So this is big to get him off his feet, and that'll be a good thing.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking about last year and this year. If you remember from 2 years ago, his playoff loss to Tampa Bay, the book on Jalen Hurts was to try to do what Tampa Bay did, which was, all right, if they're going to run a lot of zone reads and you know, he's going to keep the ball and run to the outside, what you want to do is you want to only have one safety high, bring another safety in the box. You want to crash that defensive end at the mesh point where they hand off. And if he keeps it, you have that extra, you have the linebacker scrape down and then the safety coming through. You basically want to put a lot of guys in the box and pressure him and force the issue. That's what Tampa Bay did. And if you remember week 1, that's what the Lions tried to do. Remember how much man coverage the Lions played? And what did Jalen do is he responded by throwing the ball to A.J. Brown as much as he could, right? And that was a signal about how much he had improved and how much A.J. Brown was going to mean to the Eagles offense. And then gradually as the year went on, you saw less and less man coverage. But that used to be, oh, we're going to play man and we're going to force the issue up front. And this year, you saw right from the start, it was way more of what the league is doing as far as too high and quarters. Like this year, it's like, don't let Jalen Hurts beat us over the top. We'll let him run a little bit, and he's not running as much. And it's just such a philosophical change because now he's respected for how well he throws the ball.
Last year, I remember making this point, and a friend of ours who does pro scouting for another team agreed. He said Hurts was so confident in his ability to throw the ball downfield, he'd throw over the coverage.
Mm-hmm.
He was so confident, and that was the big growth as you talked about from 21. They're like, okay, we're going to load the box because Hurts isn't confident about what he's seeing. It's like right now, the opposite is with Justin Herbert, the Chargers quarterback. He's not throwing the ball downfield. He's checking it down.
Yep.
Boy, talk about the anti-check down quarterback in Hurts. He's so aggressive.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. And getting him off his feet is good here. So that's what we see from quarterback.
Definitely. And then just seeing that maturation now of him, because what Dallas did a lot of was show single high or too high. A lot of teams are doing this, but Dallas did a lot. They rotate their safeties just like the Eagles do, and they try to confuse. And I thought Jalen has done a really good job the last 2 weeks of saying, I know what you're doing. I see the post-snap movement, and I go to the guy. I go to my guys. I know how to disperse the ball. I see it, and I throw it. And I think that's really been good for him. We talked about the running backs. How do we get the running game going again? How do we get the more explosive runs? You know, if teams are going to stack the box, that's going to be tough. But I do think the Eagles have the opportunity to look at their running plays, especially the last few weeks without Jalen running as much, and try to figure out a way that they can get some more bodies to get those explosive plays for DeAndre Swift.
No doubt. So before we get to receiver, here's the way we see the running game. First of all, and you just alluded to it, and we'll expand this a little bit. The beauty of the self-scout is what DeFilippo told us. John said that the problem is when you have games each week, you just don't have time,
right,
to take a deep dive. Well, so this is what the coaches could do this week. They only work 3 or 4 days. They don't work the whole week, but you get all the cut-ups. You get to see where the blocks were missed, and obviously not having Cam Jurgens who knew that Jurgens would have been as good as he was before he got hurt. And that was probably one of the biggest surprises of this season. If we talk about surprises, Cam Jurgens, and he put a lot of mass on his frame, played really well before he got hurt with a sprained foot. And he was close, as you know, he practiced every day the leading up to the Dallas game. So you would think he'd get cleared leading up to the Kansas City game. So let's see what happens there. But the other part of this is the average depth of target for the running backs. Yes, the running back targets are way up this season, but let's see the explosives. Yes, Swift looked good. He had a couple of really nice plays. So let's expand on that with the extra time that coaches have to go through the tape and figure out where the matchups can be, because you always want to get running backs on linebackers. That's where OCs make their money. It's finding those matchups when linebackers don't run well enough. And by the way, Swift can really run.
Yeah. I also think looking back on it now, weeks 2 and 3 were a little bit of an outlier because of the way teams were defending them. Clearly, we talked about this in Minnesota. They played like 5-man fronts. They were worried about the passing game. They had linebackers dropping immediately. They're worried a little bit about Jalen Hurts running, even though he wasn't doing it. It was still early in the season. They were kind of trying to navigate that. They weren't really thinking of the Eagles as they're going to run the ball down my throat. So that's why the Eagles ran the ball down their throat. They were responding to the defense. But once they did that 2 weeks in a row, Minnesota, Tampa, you saw Washington the next week. Well, they have a good defensive line, right? And they were way more aggressive up front. It was a reaction to a reaction to a reaction. Then teams started to try to take the running game away, and the Eagles came out passing, which is great. They were able to do that too, which is why the Eagles are 8-1, because they're so multi-dimensional. So I don't want to say that I don't think that there's a problem. I just think that, like we said, they can do some different things to get the running backs more involved. How about wide receivers? I mean, we obviously they had no problem getting AJ Brown involved. I don't think there's anything that they need to do differently there. But do you see anything anywhere where maybe you self-scout this week and try to get others involved?
I mean, I know Devontae Smith has been up and down with the production, but when they decide they're going to target him, he's been great. It's a tough call, because I remember asking Joe Banner this. He said, we asked him some years ago on our show, when Zach, when Ertz was so dominant pass target wise, he goes, Joe said it doesn't matter. If you have a guy who can move the chains, keep going to him. If the guy continually gets open, keep going to him. So you shouldn't go away from AJ Brown. But when it's not going to AJ Brown, you get it to Smith. And now, other than that, I mean, getting Julio Jones, who's now been here a few weeks, getting him more involved without Goddard, as we should mention. There are other ways to make up for that. When you go 11 personnel, you can get Jones in there.
Yeah.
Even if Watkins is back from the hamstring and he is eligible to come back, this is something that I thought about the last couple of days. Watkins is such an inconsistent player, and Jones is way stronger physically. And by the way, I mean, I don't know if it's coincidence, but look how much better the red zone offense has been here. I know Julio, it's not like Julio Jones is playing a lot, but Julio did score in the red zone.
Yeah, it was a nice catch.
Yeah. So and I know not having Goddard's going to be a problem, but Jones is a big pass target at nearly 6'3". And you know how strong he is. It's going to be a Hall of Famer. So find a way to get him involved now that they have a couple games that they've banked. See what he looks like and find a way.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think we even said this when they signed Julio Jones. You don't sign Julio Jones and then make him your 5th receiver, right? I mean, Quez Watkins, you're not going to sit there and play Quez Watkins ahead of Julio. I mean, you may have packages for each, but it's kind of hard to just play Julio 3 to 5 snaps a game and play Quez Watkins 11, 12, 13, because, you know, Julio's a Hall of Famer and Quez Watkins is a 3rd or 4th receiver. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how they parse that out. They both bring different things to the table. So there'll be packages for each, I would imagine. As far as tight end, I'd be shocked if Albert O sort of doesn't get his opportunity here with Dallas Goedert out.
He runs better. No offense to Stall. Calcaterra could run, but he's had concussion problems. It looks like he's doing better for the protocol. But listen, they traded for Albert Okwuegbunam. So throw him the football. He could run. He's long. I know he can't block very well, but Stall can. So get Albert O in there. When they go 12 personnel, put Albert O in there. They did a great job last year. The coaches did filling in for Goddard with Stoll and Calcaterra. As you said, it'd be a surprise if Albert O was not in there. That to me is it. I mean, that's all they really need to do.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then obviously with the offensive line, I imagine Cam Jurgens will be back unless he has a setback or something during the bye week. But he was out on the practice field last week, so it just wasn't ready to really fully give it a go. Tyler Steen, You know what? I did mention in the last podcast, did he have some struggles staying on his feet? Yeah. Did he give up a couple of pressures to Micah Parsons? Yeah. But you know what? Like Pro Bowl guards give up pressures to Micah Parsons. So in general, he held up pretty well. And I think you saw his athleticism shine through on a couple of reps there. So I would imagine that even with Cam Jurgens back, that Steen is now the top backup guard if there were to be another injury.
He should be, because the challenge for him is the hand usage and matching up to the footwork, because it's all new to him because he was the tackle. It's just different from playing on the outside to the inside.
Mm-hmm.
He should. I can't imagine he wouldn't dress over Opeta. Opeta's a nice story, no question about it, as an undrafted free agent, but Steen was drafted to be a starter. Now make him the top guard, and away we go.
All right. Not else much to say about the offense. There's not going to be a whole lot of changes or scouting. Last year, the only thing, the biggest coming out of the bye is when they started to add the fake tush push, right? Where they would pitch it to the outside and do some things off the tush push that wasn't just getting a yard. So I don't know. We'll see what kind of wrinkles they might add in to the offense that is already a really good offense. We'll get into the defense in a second. I want to remind everybody to check out our friends at Sky Motor Cars, and also check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. Now let's pause to hear a word from our friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schiller, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
And if you happen to stop into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam just sent you. You will get a great deal. What would you say about the defensive line that you think could be better?
It's good. No, and by the way, Reddick, we're going to include edge rushers in here. Reddick is playing outstanding football ever since he got the wrap off of his hand, and Josh Sweat is so good. I see the national media does not know who he is. They just don't know how good of a football. He does everything well, folks.
Yep.
He's one of the most well-rounded pass rushers in the National Football League. This is so good. He can play inside a nickel, stand up, and with his hand down, he's so good. BG in his limited role is terrific. And look, Nolan Smith, what are you going to do? It's not his fault. They're just guys ahead of him.
Yeah. I
don't have a problem there. It's the interior pass rush. We knew without Hargrave, look, Carter's had a really good rookie season, don't get me wrong, but it's finding a way to get to the quarterback and flatten the quarterback, get sacks. Pressure numbers are good. Let's get sacks here. Hawks can still play. Milt Williams is a good story. Jordan Davis has really improved the run defense. It's just, it's Jeremiah Washburn and Tracy Rockert, their D-line coaches, to find a way to get these guys to get to the quarterback. That's it. I mean, honestly, I know it's easier said than done. It's hard. But the bottom line is, without Hargrave, you're just not getting the sack numbers.
Yeah, I think Milton Williams started off really well, but I feel like his sack and his pressures, it's, as you always say, it's not always about sacks, it's about pressures and beating the guy in front of you. I think the last maybe week or two, not as much. In fact, in the fourth quarter against Dallas, I thought Williams was getting blocked pretty good. Now, hey, Tyler Smith is really good. Beatis really good. Zach Martin's really good. I don't want to make it seem like, he was going up against a bunch of schlubs. In fact, I thought it was a great, if you watched Clay and Greg Cosell did a great job of just basically saying, hey, look, Sweat and Reddick were great on some snaps, and on other snaps, Tyron Smith was really good too. Terrence Steele, not so much. He struggled, but Tyler Smith, very good. So there were just times where I remember people were like, why isn't Desai blitzing? Why aren't they getting more pressure? Well, Dallas is a really good offensive line, but when it mattered, right, they got the sack there in the fourth quarter. It was just, that's going to happen. It's probably going to happen against Kansas City. Sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're not going to win. That's when you play the better teams. But in general, I think Milton, I would like to see him pick it back up with the pass rush.
The only thing I like, this is the scheme they run, folks, is a low percentage blitz. It's just not going to happen. I know they're up a little bit percentage wise, but it's all in this scheme. It's about timeliness of blitzes, choosing your time to do it. And now that the pro staff could get together with the coaches and they have more time to work together, finding out going forward the weaknesses of these offensive lines that they're going to find and where they can exploit the interior, because Carter is really good. I know he's had a couple minor injuries.
Mhm.
Davis is phenomenal against the run, and he's had some quality rushes every now and then.
Mhm.
And you mentioned Milton Williams now, and Tui Pelotu is a part of it going forward. So let's see if they can get that back. But I'm just glad that Sweat and Reddick are doing as well as they have.
Sure.
Sweaty deserves to be a real Pro Bowler, not a replacement, not on a second team. He absolutely should be voted in Pro Bowl. But I just wish the fans around the country would know this.
I agree. He's as good as they come. Second level guys at linebacker. We talked about Morrow and Cunningham. I mean, as far as what you can do with them, I think that they're doing their jobs, doing what's asked. I think in some ways, Zach Cunningham has played above expectation, which is a good thing.
Yes.
I don't know that there's much that you can change or get better here. You just needed good health.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's Cunningham's been an amazing story. I'll be honest with you, I did not expect to play this well.
Yeah.
Morrow flash. It's not just a 3-sack game. He's a smaller guy. He might not even be 220. And that's going to get concerning because Cunningham has had an injury history. Titans did cut him, but he's played really well. Been a great story. And then you got Morrow now is going to be a starter. So we'll see how they hold up. But just to finish that off before we get to the secondary, they've got to sign a veteran. You're absolutely right. They have to sign a veteran inside linebacker for the practice squad and then call him up at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. You're one injury. This is sort of like this will be nickel. If they get one more injury, it's going to be like, oh my God, who's going to be the linebacker today?
Who's the guy they signed at 17, the former Raven?
Donnell Ellerby.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, that was, he was toast. He was like,
and he started in the NFC Championship game.
I know. And he was just about done. I remember that. And that honestly, because I was asking the chat once, are there any guys who are older that, are just about done? And someone thought of, Logan Ryan. I thought that was a great one. We're going to look into that one because that's, they should really at least work out as an emergency, see where he's at.
Who's the Patriots linebacker that recently retired? Maybe they can pull him out. Winovich, wasn't he a linebacker or was he more of an outside guy?
Chase Winovich?
Didn't he retire recently? I don't know. I thought so. At this point, you got to get the Rolodex out and be like, hey, like Lou Brown from Major League. Yeah. you want to play linebacker for the Eagles? The guy's like, I got something.
I'm not sure. They need, but no, it's funny because someone asked about Malcolm Jenkins. That's the point, though.
Mm.
Like the McCourty brothers are in television. That's it doesn't seem like it's going to happen.
Right.
So but again, and we'll get to this at corner in about 30 seconds. You can never be too safe when you're trying to win a Super Bowl. Work a bunch of guys out and just have them on your Rolodex. And by the way, you can take these workouts at your facility.
Right. All right. Adam, I don't know. Maybe because it's the bye week and they're self scouting, they'll figure out some ways. We're constantly asked, why aren't they playing Nolan Smith more? Why aren't they playing Nolan Smith more? And my answer is, well, which outside linebacker, which pass rusher are you taking off the field? Are you taking Sweat off the field or are you taking Hassan Reddick off the field? And, you still have to play Brandon Graham too. He's pretty good. So I just don't know.
He's playing exactly what he should play. Very little because the other guys are going to play him. It's like not even a discussion. If you're really following this, he should not be playing much. And it's nothing to do with how he's performing. It's about the other guys, as you mentioned. Right. Now, next year, good chance BG's not back in terms of retirement. Now, if he comes back, if they want him back and he wants to be back, then that's a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll see in the offseason how he's doing. Remember, he did have an injury in training camp, but they're happy with him. What we understand, it's just you got all these guys playing in front of him. There's really nothing else to discuss, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I feel like this is the same thing Nakobe Dean last year. Why aren't we? Well, because TJ Edwards and Kaiser White are playing pretty well.
Ahead of them.
Like there's nothing you can do, right?
Yeah, you can't just put some guy out there because he was a first round pick. You don't do that. You just don't do it. It doesn't matter whether he's a first or seventh round pick. If guys are ahead of them who are playing better, by the way, you don't bench them. You can't make a case to bench the other two. Obviously you can't. Now the argument against it is, well, what about increasing his reps. That's the point. Are you going to take these guys off? Like, for instance, let's move to cornerback, right? One of the things I put out here, because the two corners are older, they're 30 years or older. Slay and Bradbury, could at least give them like 10 snaps off a game? Because they play just about every snap, and get Joe Ricks out there. I think that might help them a little bit. But then again, do the coaches think these guys are downgrades enough that they don't want to chance it? That's something they're going to have to answer. But I think it's something to look into, because it's a long season. I know Slay's incredibly durable. Bradbury's not played as well. Everybody knows that. The question is, would it help them to give Bradbury a little bit of rest each game?
Well, that's a very, I think, interesting observation you're making, and especially coming off the Dallas game, where I don't know if you noticed, but by the end of the game, they switched those guys' sides. Darius Slay started playing over on the right side, and James Bradbury, who usually plays right side, was playing on the left side, where he was usually matched up against a Tolbert or Michael Gallup. So they clearly said, we need Slay, who's playing better, against a Brandon Cooks, like a speed guy. We have to move Bradbury out of that spot. So that's the first sign that the coaches are starting to recognize that something's got to give here with the way James Bradbury has been playing. And maybe another sign, to your point, would be, I don't know, maybe we'll see some more Josh Jobe on the outside in certain packages or whatever against certain speed receivers. Maybe, who knows? I don't know, but that's a really interesting point you're making, because the coaches have already told you it's in their minds that they're thinking about the fact that Bradbury hasn't played as to expectation.
Someone asked me in the chat, and I looked up his contract. And it's over $10 million fully guaranteed next year that they would owe him. I'm not saying they're going to look at moving him or cutting him. Obviously, they're not going to cut him because it's a lot of money. But this is something we'll talk obviously more closer to the draft. But they're to me, their number one priority is cornerback next year to draft.
Yeah.
Then edge rusher. So, and then to finish this off, once they get Evans back, Justin Evans, that'll be their fourth safety. Boy, they also need him back.
Yes.
He can play nickel, but they need a fourth safety. And he was a starter. We forget, it's been so long. I can't remember week one. He was a starting safety for them.
Yes. Not anymore. It'll obviously be Blankenship and Byard going forward, but
That's right.
The depth is so key there, because they need to get Sidney Brown out of the slot. That's huge. So if for whatever reason Roby is not ready or he gets hurt, you're right, Evans can do it. They need to have Evans and Roby ahead of Sidney Brown on the slot chart. So, and then of course, just in general over the bye week, I think that they'll probably just try to figure out ways to do what they can do on the back end to continue. Now that you get some healthy guys back, Adam, maybe they can do a little bit more movement, post-snap movement, disguise some of the stuff. And the biggest thing is, I wonder if he'll play as much man coverage coming out of the break as he's played. Because it's not really helped them the last few weeks to play as much man coverage as they have.
Believe it or not, and I always laugh, because when I first started covering in the league, the teams that played a lot of man were well above 50%. Now, if you're above 25%, that's higher than average.
Yeah.
Eagles are about 28 1/3 percentage wise man coverage, which is higher than the league average.
Yep. So
on your point, because if Bradbury struggles, because he's really a zone corner, that's why the Giants cut him, because you can't go, you just can't play pure man with him.
Right.
So I'm interested. They have to cut. You're right. The offensive staff, they're good. The defensive staff has got a lot of work on.
They do. They have a lot to ponder. All right, so that's it for the pondering for us. We'll be back Monday morning with obviously not a game review, but a little bit more content. Yes? What do we got?
It's going to be our mid-season awards.
That's right.
What they're doing. I love this show.
All right, we'll be giving out awards to our Eagles for the midseason. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. As always, we thank you for flying with us inside the Birds.